Welcome to Caldwell County Today. I'm Paige Counts, Public Information Officer for Caldwell County. Joining me today is Mandy Bays and Brandy Hood from DSS. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
And you two are here to talk about an important program or important programs offered by DSS.
Yes.
The first one is child care, which sounds pretty clear, but explain what child care is when we're talking from DSS standpoint.
So child care is a subsidy program that we assist families in helping for the cost of child care services. So for families that are employed, seeking employment, going to school, any of those, we would help pay for the child care to make sure that they have that so they can do those things.
What are the processing standards? How do people get started if they're interested in applying for the child care program?
Well, we are located on the second floor of the DSS building. So they would come into that lobby and ask for an application, which we have available. And from that point, they would complete it, and we have 30 days to process the application from the date that we receive it in the office.
And obviously child care can be quite expensive. So how is the parents' portion, their parents' fee calculated?
So we look at all family situations, of course, but in most family situations, it's required that the family pays 10% of whatever their monthly gross income is for that household. So we calculate it, and it's normally 10%, and that would be what we call the parent fee. And they would pay that to the provider, and then DSS, the child care program, would pay the remainder of the child care.
In broad scopes, I know the financial guidelines get a little crazy because it's a whole lot of math involved. So I'm not going to ask you to explain that today. But what are the other broad guidelines that you have to follow to apply for the child care program?
So you have to be a U.S. citizen or a qualified alien. You have to, and that's any sort of citizen documentation. You would have to provide that. You have to be a North Carolina resident, of course, a resident of Caldwell County. And even if you work in surrounding counties, and it would be easier for your child to go to child care in Catawba County or Burke County, that's fine. As long as you reside in Caldwell County, your services would stay in Caldwell County. And then, of course, you have to meet the income criterias. And for children ages, I'm just going to briefly go over that. Right. Ages 0 to 5, we look at the 200% poverty level, and then any ages 6 to 12, we look at the 133% poverty level.
Do y'all dictate where a child goes to child care, or does the parent choose? How does that piece of it work?
The parents can choose their provider that they want for their child to go to.
And it's the parent's responsibility to communicate back and forth with the providers to see who has availability, their star, their ranking, if they offer services that child needs. It's that parent kind of dictates that and finds out which one would be the best fit for them and their family, and then we just kind of provide that financial aspect of it.
Okay. And what if there's a change in child care, for child care? How do you handle that?
So we would like for any change to report it to us so that we can document it, the change occurred with this household. The main things to report the change is the address if the family moves, income, a change in the provider if they choose to no longer send their kid to the current provider we are doing. It's important for them to do that so we can get the new voucher issued to them. Marital status changes, pretty much anything that happens that would affect their case.
Income is a big change.
Yeah.
We always want to make sure that any sort of income change that a family experience, even if it's a minor change, report it. Any change, I would say anything. It's never going to hurt to call, let your caseworker know. Say, hey, I've got this change. I don't know if it's going to affect anything. I just want you to know this. And even if it doesn't affect the eligibility of the case, which a lot of times some of those don't, it's just good to have documentation that household called and reported that change.
And the closer families can work with you, that are in this program can work with you, really the better their case turns out.
Yes. And the more attention it sees, and if we have other services available, if we know more about your family and the more about your changes that you're experiencing, we would know if we need to to refer you to different programs at that point.
And I think that's one of the keys with DSS is there's so many programs there. It's hard for an individual to walk in and know, I need this, this, and this.
It is.
But once you connect with child care, they may open the doors for other services you can benefit from. So that's awesome.
Definitely.
Speaking of another service, you have a Work First program, and I'm not going to get what that abbreviation stands for. I just know it's called Work First.
Yes.
So what is Work First?
You want to go?
Sure. So WAFA, which is WFFA, it stands for Work First Family Assistance. And what it is an employment program for families with eligible children living with them who are 18 or will graduate high school by his or her 19th birthday. And what does it assist families with seeking employment, maintaining and gaining that employment to help that family within a short amount of period of time as we can.
What are, and I know this is very broad because we talked before we got started, what are some of the services that come with Work First?
So we can provide multiple services. Of course, the financial aspect is one that is very important. So while a family is seeking employment or going back to school and getting their GED, because that is something that we would work with the families to make sure that gets done as well. But while they're doing that, we would help with a financial aspect to try to take care of their needs during that time, so they still have a little bit of a income coming in as long as they're following all the criterias, the eligibility requirements.
And speaking of eligibility requirements, what are the eligibility requirements?
So you have to have a child in the home under the age of 18, or again, like she had said, graduating by his or her 19th birthday. Again, they have to be a U.S. citizen or a qualified, have documentation of their citizen status. They have to have some sort of legal custody, they're that parent, or they have to have a guardianship, kinship agreement, something by the courts stating that they have guardianship or custody of that child before, of course, we could give those services. They have to work with the child support department, and a lot of those, that's another good thing about Work First is we help them through that process. So some people don't understand how that process works and applying for child support and what you have to do, and we would help them through all of that process. We also work with the employment programs in our area, Employment Security Commission. We work very, very close with them. They have to meet income guidelines, of course, and then they can't have, so all of our programs, of course, are income restricted, but they can't have resources such as bank accounts, savings accounts, houses that's not their residential home, vehicles that's not their primary vehicle over the amount of $3,000. So they can't have in their savings account $4,500 and they can't meet that resource limit. So they would still have to meet that criteria as well.
So a lot of criteria to meet, but what is the application process?
Well, the application process itself could take up to 2 hours. So somebody that's interested in the program can call or come by the agency to be screened to see if they're potentially eligible for Work First.
So you're going to sit down with someone from DSS and they're going to help you through that process.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And it actually can take a little longer than 2
Yeah.
hours sometimes. It just depends on what all avenues they have to go with that family. And, that worker who sits down with them works very close with the family, so they make sure that they're getting all the services that they truly need.
Is there any documentation that you need to bring for that visit?
I believe the documentation that's required is like their social security card, birth certificates, if they're married, like if it's a 2-parent household, the marriage certificate, or divorce to prove that they're divorced. It just depends on the situation, what all they would need.
So it might be a case that you want to call first and make sure you have your
Right.
documentation before you go.
Right.
And some other requirements I'll just kind of add out there is, of course, I mentioned child support. They have to attend a budgeting class. They have to provide shot records, school records to make sure, because that child has to be attending school regularly. and we do check the roster and make sure that the attendants are meeting the criteria. And then in most situations, actually in all situations, the family and the caseworker that does the application set up a kind of a binding contract. It's called a mutual responsibility agreement. And it goes over in that contract, it holds the county liable and the family liable. So it talks about the plan, what you're seeking this plan for, what your goal is with the plan, and it just makes sure you're following all those steps that needs to be took to make sure you're assisting that family.
What kind of special things can be done for the families to help families?
The Work First program has some additional funding to help the children that are in the program, such as sports registration, extracurricular activities that have been approved, help with school supplies.
There's a lot of things. It's very broad that what we can assist with. We have a guideline, of course, that we have to go by, but anyone on that program, they just call and ask. I'm sure that we could make sure if it's anything that's going to benefit that household or that child, we would try to make sure that we could get those funds met.
Mm-hmm.
And how do people reach you? If they want to reach you by phone, how's the best way to do that?
They can call my direct line or email.
Okay. And we'll put those on the screen.
Okay.
And then me as well. Yeah, so I'm Brandy Hood, so my direct line will be on the screen, and then my email as well, and we'll get it to the correct place.
And before you leave, I have one other question, just generic DSS. Sometimes I feel like for citizens, walking in that big brick building out on Highway 18 can be intimidating. Just there's so many services and so many government rules, you feel like it can be intimidating. What do you say to people who are walking in for the first time?
We're here to help you. And we're here to make sure that you get any service that you're eligible for. No one is ever going to look at you in a different way of coming in there. You come in as if you're going into your house. Just walk in, tell us what you need, and you may not know what you need, and that's perfectly fine, but we have people that are specialized in different areas that can help you. And you should always feel 100% comfortable, and it is a safe space that you can come in and talk about your issues, your family issues that you may be having, and we kind of know once we talk to you and have that communication what services that would be eligible for and where we can go from there.
Do you want to follow up with anything, Nate?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
They should feel comfortable and be themselves when they come in to apply.
Because you're going to see these friendly faces like these.
Yes.
Ladies, thank you for coming and talking to us about child care and the Work First program. I appreciate you being here. Is there anything else you want to add?
I just want to add one more thing.
Okay.
For child care right now, we currently do not have a waiting list. So they come in and they can apply. They don't have to be placed on a waiting list. So we have the funding available right now for our county.
Yes, that's very important. I'm glad you added that.
And I think that's also very important as people are looking at maybe going back to school in August.
Mm-hmm.
Right now is a good time. You need to go ahead and get those applications in now.
Yes, definitely. And again, it's a 30-day process. So, and if we have everything that we need, we maybe can get it done sooner. So, and there's no waiting list. So it's a great time to apply for those services. Even if you're unsure if you're eligible, apply. It's not going to hurt anything to apply and just see what services are available.
Yeah. Thank you for being here, and just thank you for sharing all this great information with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Caldwell County Today.